Mac Life presents Smashing Two Cars Together. Here we go. Yeah, my name is Steven Makovic, and a lot of people ask me where I got this crazy idea from to take this 68 Camaro and a 2005 Pontiac GTO 6.0 and put them together. And honestly, I was watching a TV show, this famous TV show, these guys building these cars, and I seen them kind of putting it together, and they built one for a famous person, and I watched it and I was like, you know what, I could do that better. So I just kind of did. So yeah, here's where I was just kind of starting to cut the GTO apart. God, that took a lot of work. I went through like a million Sawzall blades to do that. You know, and it's kind of dangerous too, because every time you picked up a piece, it was like jagged and sharp, so you just kind of get cut like every time. You know, we took another piece off of it and another piece, especially the windshield, but it was fun cutting it apart. I actually drove it around the neighborhood with it all chopped down like that in one of the last photos. You should have seen the look on the neighbors' faces. It was crazy. So there's where I started stripping that, cut the floor out. God, that car was just full of rust, but it was all right. It was a good donor. I found it on the side of the road over on Clinton Street, and the guy was nice, and he sold it to me, and I already knew what I was going to do to it, so I really didn't care that it was in rough shape when I started, because I really just needed it for a jig. I figured I was going to replace pretty much all the sheet metal on it anyway, so, you know, it kind of worked out. It gave me my template to kind of work off of. It's not like doing something like this comes with a set of blueprints, so you're kind of like figuring it out as you go every step of the way. It's so long of a process. Yeah, there's my dad there in the backyard. I think he thought I was over my head. Yeah, this was actually cut the car in half. Yeah, like the amount of welding that I had to do in this car, I mean, it was just unbelievable amounts of hours. I had to put the car on top of that car, take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on. It took forever. I can't, the amount of hours and energy and measuring that went into trying to put this car together was just insane. So I needed like 4 bottles of Excedrin migraine to build this car. Yeah, that was one of the days we were still lining it up. Because we got it on, and then we had to cut it apart, and then we had to take it back off, and then cut it apart some more, and then put it back on. And the worst part was in windshield wiper blades. So a lot of people didn't figure out how to get that to work, but I ended up taking the stock GTO motor for the wiper blades, building a whole new tunnel, and actually getting it to work off the stock GTO motor while using the 68 Camaro, the actual arms and all the engineering to that to make it work. Yeah, this is still lining it up here. What a mess. Back to that old welding. I must have went through like 6 10-pound spools of wire just to weld this car together. Oh God, I remember lining up the doors. That took forever. Them doors did not want to line up because the body was just so different. Everything was different on it. Yeah. Everything to this car had to be like put together, trial and error. Every piece was like handmade and fabricated. Every bracket, every mounting spot, every bolt hole. And then I used to have to take it back apart. So I probably built that car like 20 times. Getting the body to line up perfectly, was a task all in itself. Everything was done on micro measurements, and then making mounting spots for everything. And then I wanted to make everything where you could just take it apart with a 13 mil wrench. So I had to make everything where it was threaded sockets, and then I just bought a box of 13 mil bolts and just like put the whole car together with it like that. It worked out really well. It just was a lot of work. Yeah, that's when I ripped off all the old sheet metal, and pretty much the whole car was brand new. There wasn't a speck of rust in that car. The 05 GTO actually came from West Virginia, so it was a rust-free car to begin with. Yeah, that's when we were doing the suspension. I changed everything out on that car. I went through the whole motor, all the suspension, changed it over, full coil-over independent suspension on it. I lowered it. Yeah, that thing drove like it was on rails. The gas tank had to be customly made. I actually ended up putting the filler in the side and used a Harley-Davidson pop-up gas cap to seal the unit. That took some ingenuity for sure. A lot of thinking to try to figure that out, because I still wanted the trunk space. I still wanted a subwoofer. I still wanted, you know, it to kind of function like a normal car. But filling it was like, well, where do we put the gas? Yeah, that was a challenge. Yeah, the front lower valence, I wanted it to have the 69 look. So I ended up taking a 69 lower valence and a 68, chopping them both up into pieces and mashing them together so that way it would work. And that whole lower valence was just completely custom handmade. That took some time. So mini tubbed it. Here's where I'm kind of welding in all the fenders. Yeah, that took a lot of time too.
Bring it down.
Yeah, so that was a tough spot. That's sick. Yeah, so I had the idea that I wanted it to have all the modern amenities. So I decided to get the power windows to actually install in there. And it's like they sell a kit for it for them old cars, but when you're doing a swap like this, nothing fits. So that took some time to redesign, re-engineer, and figure out how to get the power windows to actually work in the car and everything line up. But we did. I mean, I ended up spending, that probably took like a week just to figure that out. Yeah, that was where everything was skinned. A lot of people ask me how long it took to build it. I did it during COVID. It was about a 6-month process from start to finish. Once I actually got started, a lot of planning ahead of time, but once I actually bought the cars, it was so hard to take a Sawzall blade to that GTO when I first bought it. It was like, man, there's no going back now. Yeah, there's all the suspension. Yeah, so the inner fenders and the whole front clip had to be customly handmade with all mounting brackets and everything so I could get everything to line up. And this is where we made the dash. The dash had to be completely custom. I needed custom gauges, but I still wanted to fit all the air conditioning, cruise control, all the amenities that the GTO originally had, but I needed it to fit in a 68 dash. So I pretty much took parts of the GTO dash and I took brand new parts from a 68 dash and cut them up into a million pieces and put them all back together and made them fit. So it still had the ignition from the GTO and all the gauges. And there, see that part right there for the actual gauge cluster, that was from the GTO that I cut out of that dash, and then I ended up customly molding it and fitting it into the 68 Camaro dash, and that was the final product. It actually looked really, really awesome when I was done. Yeah, that was a fun project to make everything work. And then the tilt steering wheel work. And then I wanted the steering wheel to be able to pop on and off. And then, it was so much trial and error. It was like constantly at the whiteboard every morning trying to, all right, how do I solve this problem? How do I solve that problem? Yeah, but once I got it all together, I mean, it was just epic. Yeah, I used to just kind of just chill out in that car and like plan my next step. What was my next step? What was my next step? Yeah, it was a lot. Every piece, so that was my plasma cutter. Every piece for this pretty much had to be customly cut out, all the interior pieces, and then have it all upholstered and wrapped. I mean, every mounting bracket, it just, ugh. Yeah, so I couldn't get the hood to open properly because the dash the firewall on the GTO comes out way further than the 68 Camaro. So I had the idea. I'm like, well, where am I going to put these spring hinges? So I had the idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it open like a Corvette. So I actually took the factory 68 Camaro hinges and made jigs and welded them to the side on the interior fender wall, and mounted the 68 Camaro hood to that and made it open like a Corvette, and it actually worked. It cleared everything. Definitely took some time.
We're on our way.
And then there was that part. See, I took a 68 Camaro front firewall cowl windshield vent part, and I actually remade everything in there so that way the wiper blades would work. That took a lot. Yeah, and that was just kind of getting everything into paint. Yeah, that was when I was kind of customly making everything. I'll tell you, it got really tiring building this car when every single piece that you're trying to put together on a car isn't meant to go together. Like, probably one of the biggest challenges I ever took on in my life. I might do one more, but I'm going to do a different kind of car, I think. Yeah, that was a filler hole for the gas, so I kind of just moved it there. I think I cut actually the filler neck out of a Harley too. So this was kind of like a montage of like a whole bunch of pieces. It was like whatever I could kind of find that would work and like re-engineer. I was so excited when it started coming together. The amount of sanding it took to just get this car straight. Oh, God, my hands still hurt. Yeah, and then when I like got it in primer, it was like the trial period. It was like, all right, before I go like, you know, painting this thing and making it pretty, let's just drive it. Yeah, it sounded so good too. The neighbors must have thought I was crazy at the time. Yeah, so then after all like the trial drive, and then it was finally time to get her in paint. Man, this thing used to smoke the tires up really well too. Yeah, so I probably drove this car for probably like maybe a month, beating on it, kind of getting it, testing it out, trying everything out. And then finally it was like, all right, it's time for paint. I'm ready to get this baby all painted up. Yeah, I think it took like 3 coats of color on it and a whole lot of prep work. So it was like, I wasn't going to go run a painting booth at the time. I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to shoot this thing where it is. So I was in my garage and I ended up building putting up a wall of like fans and ventilation and like a whole bunch of like filters and stuff to like grab the particles. And oh yeah, it was like this just crazy contraption of like just ways to keep it, take all, the whole trick is you gotta pull all the overspray out of the room so it doesn't land on your, the top coat that you actually put on top of it, so it comes out nice and shiny like that. Yeah, I really was pleased with the way that it came out. So, I mean, it actually worked really well. It was like, hell yeah, this paint booth works really nice. People ask me where I learned this stuff and how did I get into this and stuff, and I just wanted to go fast when I was a kid, and I loved cars and the different colors and the sounds and just about everything that attracts you to a car, just like everybody else, and I kind of obsessed over this and had such a passion in it that I just wanted to learn absolutely everything about cars and how to build them and how to fabricate, and it's like I would look at a problem and be like, biggest thing I always like live by is like, when in doubt, look about. So I would just kind of look around and find a solution, and I just would kind of look at it and be like, you know what, I can make that, or that can be fixed, and God, don't tell me I can't do something, because I will find a way. If it's physically possible, I'll do it. Yeah, that was, I think, the first time we took it up to the track. Yeah, I used to fall asleep in the car all the time. I'd fall asleep in the garage. I'd be working on it so late. Yeah, that would happen. I get a lot of questions about the lift in there too. That's it's a 9,000 pound pad lift that you can actually get from Harbor Freight. It works really, really well. Yeah, it definitely served its purpose for this project. Made things a lot easier, even though it was already like killer on the body to build this thing anyway. The crazy positions that I had to be in for hours on end. I actually ended up shortening the 05 GTO wheelbase, so I actually cut the car in half and shortened it 3 inches in order to get it to match up to the Camaro's wheelbase. So, and then it was like after I did that, I had to take it over to my buddy's shop after I re-welded it back together with a measuring tape to make sure that the alignment was right. So it was just like such a fiasco of all these different things that I had to do to get this car to line up. And yeah, I had it up to 160 miles an hour. So I mean, it went straight as an arrow when I was all done. You know, it drove really nice. It actually functioned the way it was supposed to. You know, a lot of people build cars and then they look real nice, but they're actually like really shitty. I couldn't have that. Like, this thing had to look, it had to perform like it looked. And it definitely did. Definitely did the trick. So with this car, I actually enjoyed building it more than driving it. I know that's crazy. A lot of people are like, why'd you sell it? Well, I sold it to a guy up in Newfoundland, and it is winning car shows up there all the time. It's a good friend of mine, and I'm glad that he has it and he enjoys it. But for me, it was more or less I wanted to prove that I could build this more or less than own it. I'm definitely into more high power performance cars. So, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed this project. Well, thanks for watching my video, everybody, and I hope y'all have a good one and take care.